Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you guys are going to watch this. Welcome back to yet another edition of the Daily Blitz's first official podcast entitled Monday Evening Quarterback. My name is Christian Simpson, and I am the creator, the founder, the NFL and college football analyst, and overall fan of football. And I run a company, called the Daily Blitz, where we specialize in everything football 24/7, 365. So glad to be back here again. It was a wild week of football, and I'm ready to discuss it all. Have another jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk about the craziness that took place in the NFL because three of the teams in my power rankings yesterday all lost, and I think you guys can put a pretty good guess on who those three are. I'm going to talk about what caught my eye in college football because that was pretty crazy as well. A couple of trap games, a couple of things you didn't see coming, and that's just, that's the joy of football. I'm going to give out game balls. We're going to go to the phone lines again. I'm going to take questions, and I'm going to promote how you can keep up with me from the website to social media, how you can keep up with me on the other shows I contribute for, and I'm going to do a little quick preview of Monday Night Football, and then we're going to end the show. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. Week 10, college football. We're at the double-digit mark already. Only 3 games are left in the college football season. That's so crazy to think of, and this was truly Trap Saturday. Now, when I was on the Nerd Zone last Wednesday with those guys, usually when I'm on the Nerd Zone, we do game picks for both college and the NFL. And when we talked about Ohio State and Nebraska, I kept saying to the guys, look, Nebraska played Michigan tough a couple of weeks ago. I think they can do the same for Ohio State. And I understand Nebraska isn't necessarily the greatest team in the world. I know they've struggled immensely since Scott Frost became the head coach in Lincoln, but they play hard, and that's what they did on Saturday against arguably the best team in the Big Ten. They've run the Big Ten for the last couple of years, so I might have to take away that arguably word because, look, I'm just speaking facts. But nah, they were all over C.J. Stroud. They forced him to throw the football 54 times, and I was saying, for a young freshman quarterback, he is very settled in. He's very poised, and I look at the running game. Where was Ohio State's running game? I mean, Travion Henderson carried the ball 21 times, but couldn't really get anything going. The star of the game was Jackson Smith and Jigba. Now, if you followed along with me, I've raved about this kid because he does more than your typical slot receiver. He stretches the field vertically from the inside. Because when you think of slot guys, what do you normally think of? The Wes Welkers, the Julian Edelmans, Hunter Renfrow, McCole Hardman, just to name a few. And with Jackson, he can go over the top. He can stretch the field vertically. He can run those inside fade routes. He can go over the middle. He can sink into the teeth of a defense. And he just does so much more. He had the game of his life on Saturday in Lincoln. Ohio State did win their 7th straight. They won that game by a score of 26-17. Now, they have an interesting 3-game stretch. I'm going to say that much. Purdue this upcoming week, which has been previewed on the site. That's on there right now. Would I be me if I didn't do a shameless plug? Then they have a big one with Michigan State. That could determine a lot of things, and then they end their season by playing Michigan. And that could determine a couple of things as well as to who is going to represent the East in the Big Ten title game in December. So, with that being said, before I jump into anything else that caught my eye, Week 10, let's talk about those playoff rankings. Now, on this show and on Twitter, I predicted what the playoff rankings were going to be for the first set that was revealed last Tuesday, and I said Georgia at 1, which is exactly what it should be. They've been the most dominant team in college football. Um, I had Oklahoma at the 2. They've won 17 games in a row. That has to stand for something, right? And they've looked a lot better since they started Caleb Williams at quarterback. That's the best decision Lincoln Riley could have made. I had Cincinnati at the 3, and I had Alabama at the 4. You know the committee loves them some Bama. Well, this is what it ended up being. Georgia was at the 1, so I think everybody got that right. They had Alabama at the 2, which kind of surprised me. They had Michigan State, excuse me, at the 3, and then they put the Oregon Ducks at the 4. Now, I agree with 2 of them. I agree with Georgia. I mean, Georgia's resume is spoken for itself. They've been the most dominant team, excuse me, in college football, and they've just been imposing their will all year long. So I agree with that one. And even if they were to go into their conference title game undefeated, and let's say they did lose in the conference title game, they're still a playoff team to me. I agree with Alabama being there now. I know Alabama has that one loss, did lose to Texas A&M back in October, and they really can't afford to slip up or skate because that's exactly what they did on Saturday against LSU. Rivalry game, you got to get up for those games, and they didn't. I think they took LSU a little too lightly. Bama did win that game 20-14. Normally, Bama scoring 30, 35, sometimes even 40 points a game, and that just wasn't the case with this game on Saturday. Michigan State, they were number 3. Big win against Michigan the week before, and they faltered in West Lafayette against the Purdue Boilermakers. I don't know what it is about Purdue because Purdue just always has a knack for playing those upper echelon teams in the conference. You know, they did this to Ohio State a couple of years ago, and a certain somebody I know referred to that game as a scrimmage. They beat Iowa a couple of weeks ago. Iowa coming off that big win against Penn State, and they hand Iowa their first loss of the year. And ever since then, Iowa hasn't been the same. Michigan State, they were celebrating that win against Michigan from the previous week, and I put this solely on Mel Tucker. You got to have your men prepared for anything when you're one of those teams that's ranked in the top 5. Everybody is going to be coming for you, and they just couldn't get the job done. They settled. They skated along, coasted along for the first 3 quarters, and they decided it was time to play in the 4th quarter, and it was too late. Purdue did beat them by a score of 40-29. David Bell had a huge game for Purdue. He's been doing this all year. Might be the best pure wide receiver we have in the Big Ten, and one of the best in the country that you don't really hear about. Kenneth Walker III, he did what he had to do, but where was the rest of the offense? Defensively, Michigan State couldn't get off the field, and that's a surprise because Mel Tucker is a defensive-minded guy, so that kind of shocks me a little bit. Oregon, now, ever since they beat Ohio State, Oregon has been very shaky. Losing to Stanford doesn't really look that good to me on the resume. That's a bit of a blemish, if we're being honest. They had a game against Washington this weekend, and looked like Washington was going to play them tough. And by the way, Robert Griffin III is hysterical as a broadcaster. A lot of people were telling me that's how I would sound if I were in the booth, but I beg to differ. Anthony Brown played well. Travis Dye played well. Oregon did get that win against their conference rival and the Washington Huskies. Washington plays tough. I think they're going to be there when it comes to it in the next couple of years. And I could say the same about Purdue in the Big Ten West. They could win the Big Ten West next year. They could still win it this year if we're being realistic. As far as what else caught my eye in college football, Georgia, does anything else really need to be said? They were down by 3 points, and everybody's freaking out. Oh, they're down by 3. And I'm just sitting here, look, y'all. They are going to right the ship, and look at what they do. dominate Missouri, which really isn't saying much. Beat them by 37 by a score of 40-3. Their defense just continues to impose their will. And as I was telling somebody the other day, this is their best opportunity to win a national championship because after this, that window might be closing. This is Kirby's best team that he's had since taking the job in Athens, and if they don't win it this year, they will never win it. That's just the truth right there. So I don't see Georgia losing another game. The only time they're really going to be tested is when they get to the SEC conference title game. I cannot wait for that. It's more than likely going to be Georgia and Alabama, and that could be a preview of things to come in the national championship as well. I mean, they've been arguably the two best teams in college football. It's been Georgia, it's been Alabama, and then it's been everybody else just kind of slowly but surely looking up to them. And sticking with the SEC, how about Texas A&M? Now, going into that game against the Auburn Tigers, I can admit that I've been impressed with Bo Nix because I've been extremely critical of him the last few seasons, but I think this head coaching change for Brian Harsin has really elevated his game. He's been on a tear, especially in SEC play, and both Auburn and Texas A&M, they're kind of similar to one another because they pride themselves on what? A consistent running game. Tank Bigsby is one of the best running backs in college football. Reminds me of Dalvin Cook. Then you have Isaiah Spiller on Texas A&M. Zach Calzada's been the starting quarterback for the Aggies. I know he got hurt. He took a vicious hit, and that's why I always advise quarterbacks to slide. He took a vicious hit to the shoulder, but he ended up coming back, and this was a defensive game for most of the game. My type of football game. It was 3-3 at the half, and then Texas A&M just pulled away in the second half. Won that game 20-3. Have a big game upcoming this week with Ole Miss, and I'm looking forward to that because I'll actually have the chance to finally sit down and watch Matt Corral. It's different when you watch guys on tape, like, on YouTube, you see clips and whatnot, but to see them, in actual game speed, that's going to be pretty cool. I do preview that one on the site. This upcoming weekend, I'm going to give out a game ball right now. This could have gone to a couple of guys, but I'm giving it to Jackson Smith and Jigba of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Had the game of his life, as I said a couple of minutes ago. 15 catches, which is a career high, 240 yards, which is a school record in the football program, and a touchdown, and that win over the Ohio State Buckeyes, getting the win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And with that being said, we're gonna go to the phone lines right now. Had some really good convos over the last couple of days. Let's go to the phone lines. Liz, how can I help you?
Yo, Chris, what up? What's good?
Oh man, I got Skip in the building, man. I'm doing good now. What's going on, man?
I got a couple questions before I talk about any quarterback talk. Can we please talk about Lamar Miller joining Aaron Donald in Jalen?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Okay. All I'll say is that's scary hours. That's scary hours because Von Miller's been on a tear this year. Look, I know he might be slightly past his prime now, but you can still get productive years from him. You know, but nah, this is definitely a scary move for the Rams. They went all in. I knew his name was gonna be in trade talks. It's been like this for a couple of years ago, and they finally got something for him. Now, Skip, before I add every call with my listeners and my viewers, I want to know, what's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
Man, it's the breakdown and the consistency, bro. Like, I come here, I come to your site, I read every article, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no journalist around that gives it the way you do, the raw, the real appeal, even the video previews with Jay-Z records, you know, that's a special place in my heart. I appreciate all that, bro, and I appreciate what you bring to the culture.
Man, I appreciate that. Skip, we have to do this again, man. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Continue to support. Thank you so much for everything, okay?
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
With the analyst, how can I help you today?
Hey, man, what's up? As you know, I'm a big fan of the 49ers. I was actually in Chicago on Sunday watching that game.
Is that right?
It feels really good to get that win. Being 3-4 is a lot better than being 2-4, that's for sure. I mean, you look at the NFC playoff picture, you got a bunch of teams that are kind of hanging around 500, you know. You got Carolina that's 4-4, but God knows when CMC's going to be healthy again. You got New Orleans that just lost their quarterback for the season, so there's a little bit of a question mark there. You got, Seattle, Minnesota under 500. You got Chicago under 500. So there's a lot of teams that are just kind of hanging out there in that 500 or just under 500 club. And the Niners are definitely one of them. So it felt good to get that win on the road and get back in the playoff picture. My question is actually about the 49ers because I'm a big 49ers fan.
Okay.
I want to know what you think Jimmy Garoppolo needs to do in order to maintain his starting job. I mean, Sunday was definitely his best game of the season without a question. He actually looked a little bit like the Jimmy Garoppolo of old. He was moving the ball around. He was moving the offense, threw some really good passes. I was wondering, if I'm Jimmy and I want to keep my job the rest of the season and make sure that Trey Lance doesn't get it, what do I need to do? And I also want to know what your thoughts are on this Sunday with the Cardinals. I mean, there's rumors that Kyler Murray might not play, so do you think this could be a potential steal win for the Niners?
Okay, so before I answer both questions, one, who am I speaking with? I like knowing names and everything. Who am I speaking with? Is this who I think it is?
Yeah, my name's Joe Grisso.
That's who I thought it was.
Big fan of yours.
Thank you.
Figured I'd call in and
Thank you.
ask the question.
I appreciate that. Okay, so your first question was, what does Jimmy Garoppolo need to do in order to keep the starting job? One, he needs to stay healthy. I know health has been a big factor with him. When he's healthy, they're pretty good. I mean, look at a couple years ago. 2019, he plays all 16 games, and the 49ers are representing the NFC in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I know you remember that. That team was absolutely phenomenal. So I think staying healthy is one thing, and then two, just taking care of the ball overall. Like, if he consistently plays how he did on Sunday in Chicago against the Bears, I think he'll succeed. And it also just depends on the play calling, because I know Kyle Shanahan, he's made some questionable play calling over the years, but when they run the football, that opens up the passing game for Jimmy. And then question number two, my thoughts on the Cardinals and 49ers this Sunday. I actually think San Francisco beats them. I think, look, they could have beat them the first time. Just run the football. Kind of take a page out of the Packers playbook, because Arizona's not that great when it comes to stopping a run. You see what I'm saying? Like, look at how much they struggled last Thursday night against Green Bay. So I could see Elijah Mitchell really having a big game, and keep using Deebo Samuel, because he's that joker to the offense. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything and then some. You can line him in the slot. You can line him up wide on a perimeter as his natural position, which is a wide receiver. And he's excellent in run blocking.
Yeah, a quick question for you as a follow-up. Does that answer not change if Kyler Murray starts, or do you think that if Kyler Murray starts, we don't win that game.
I think.
Also, do you think that the Arizona defense is really suffering from having J.J. Watt out for the season? I mean, I know that J.J. Watt's no longer the same guy he used to be.
Right.
But I think you and I might have had a discussion about this. He brings a lot of leadership to that defense.
He does.
Having him on the field might be tough.
Yeah, and it's tough to replace, leadership like that. So many sports have great leaders, and it's tough. It's tough for anybody to come in and fill those shoes. Baltimore, Ray Lewis, it's tough to fill those shoes because he was such a great leader. Right. San Francisco, Patrick Willis. You could even say Richard Sherman. Because Sherman was a pretty solid leader. But even if Kyler were playing, I would still take the 49ers because it seems like San Francisco plays Arizona tough in San Francisco.
Yep, they play us tough too. I mean, back to 2019, the year that we were 13-3 and they were under 500. Both of those games were shootouts. So
right.
Definitely a lot of animosity between those teams, and it results in really good games. So
right.
I appreciate your analysis and answering my question.
Now, I have a question for you. I ask this to everybody who is a viewer, a supporter, and a listener. What's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
Oh man, I just like how your insights are usually fresh. They're very unique. You got a really good perspective on football. Why is because of your background as a former player. I think that you see the game differently, and I think that you have an understanding of the game. You can see certain things that maybe others can't. So I definitely like getting that perspective from you.
I appreciate that, Joe. I hope to have you back on again. Thank you for calling in. Okay.
Definitely.
You're on with the analyst. How can I help you?
Hey, this is Omar calling in.
Oh,
I got a
man.
question.
Okay. What's going on, Omar? How you doing?
Man, what's going on, brother?
It's just another day in paradise. So what's your question?
Man, my question is, first and foremost, thank you for having me on here, bro. It's an honor. I've been wanting to be on here.
Absolutely.
Talk some football with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on, most importantly.
Of course, man. Anytime. But I do got a question for you, man.
Okay.
I got several questions, but I'm going to give you one that I've been kind of thinking about, and it has to do with a recent move that just happened in the NFL.
Okay.
So, are the Rams now with Von Miller? Are the Rams now an even more contender, or are they still pretenders? Because let me say something. I didn't have the Rams going to the Super Bowl as the NFC representing them, and in that division, I didn't even know if I had them coming out as the division winners.
Okay.
They got Von Miller,
Right.
They did beat the Bucs earlier this year. They're looking pretty good now. They've been, blowing up teams, and now they got Von Miller. So I'm asking, are they the real contenders now to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, or are they just pretenders still?
Nah, I think they're the real deal. I think this team is better now than anything that Sean McVay has had, in his entire tenure in LA. This team is better now than they were with Jared Goff. Matthew Stafford, he doesn't necessarily have to rely on a running game. Jared Goff needed play action to push the ball down the field, and the running game would then open up the passing game. You see what I'm saying? And look, that defense, they were already scary because they had so many great team players. I mean, a guy that you're familiar with, Leonard Floyd, he's really flourished since going to L.A. Jalen Ramsey, to me, is the best corner in the National Football League, and then Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the National Football League. Now, you got to worry about a terror like Von Miller coming off the edge. This is a team I may not want to see come January, man.
Yeah, I mean, that defense is scary. Even before Von Miller, I mean, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, and them boys, I mean, they're fast, they're strong, they get in your face. I don't know. So the defense, I mean, I guess you could say the defense seems pretty solid. And I know Matt Stafford has, elevated this offense to different heights than they were before.
Right.
Matt Stafford is the perfect complementary
45, 50 times a game. And also, look at it like this. Just imagine if the Rams never lost Cam Akers. I think they'd be even scarier right now, Omar.
Yeah.
Yup.
I mean, that is a good point. I mean, that Daryl Henderson's been doing real good, and to your point, Stafford, being a Bears fan, we knew Stafford, for his whole career when he played with the Lions, and Stafford was always a guy that he was going to go out there and he was going to ball out.
Right.
Even if he was on a crappy team, he was going to ball out. The talent was there, at least on his end.
Right.
It just wasn't surrounding him.
Exactly.
And now when you see him in this offense with talent around him, I mean, this guy looks like if he would have been in this offense his whole career, could we be talking GOAT?
That's a question that we may never find the answer to. But Omar, so let me tell you, before I end every call, I always ask every viewer and every listener this one question. What's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
Man, my favorite thing about the Daily Blitz is that it's homegrown, is that it keeps it real, and I gotta say, the sweater that I got from the Daily Blitz fits just right. So, shout out to you, shout out to the Daily Blitz. I love what you're doing. Keep doing your thing, man.
Now that you got a sweater, I'm gonna need a picture. I'm gonna need a picture, man. So I'm gonna need that picture whenever you can. But thank you so much for calling in, and we have to do this again, okay? I want to thank all my callers. I have two more that I'm gonna play tonight, maybe one or two. And if you're watching this and you're wondering, okay, how can I be on? Could that be me? Yeah, that could be you. Just let me know when you want to be on. We will talk. We will set it up, and we can discuss some football, whatever's on your mind, football wise. I want to thank my callers again. And the last one you probably heard, he did get a sweater. I do sell merchandise, so if you do want merchandise, let me know, and I will gladly send you the link. But I always have one rule when it comes to merchandise: take a picture of you wearing the merchandise, and I will share it all on my social media sites. Look, you guys support me. The least I could do is show you guys off as well. But as far as the NFL is concerned, Week 9, there are always those weeks in the NFL where things are crazy and things seem to just go your way with everything you predicted. Yesterday was one of those days where it was crazy. So remember at the beginning of the show I said there were 3 teams in my power rankings yesterday morning that all lost. Talking about the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know what that was yesterday. Tennessee physically dominated them, and the Rams couldn't recover until the fourth quarter. They put pressure on Matthew Stafford, and if you watch Tennessee and how they play defense, they don't blitz. They can rush 3, they can rush 4. They run what's called a delayed blitz, meaning they'll rush guys and then out of nowhere, blitzers will come in unblocked and get to the quarterback, and they did a lot of that yesterday. Stafford just did not look good. The Rams defense didn't look good. I know Von Miller didn't play because he's been dealing with a lingering ankle issue. Tennessee, that's a statement win. In their last, 4 games, they've beaten playoff teams from last year. They beat Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. They beat Kansas City. Right after that, you beat the Colts. And then yesterday, you beat the Los Angeles Rams on the road, of all places, because everybody knows the West Coast isn't always the easiest place for teams from the other side of the country to go across and play. And Tennessee just looked. They played with confidence. They played inspired. And I think they were motivated because everybody heard, oh, there's no Derrick Henry, so their season is done. And that wasn't the case. I think Tennessee's still going to run the football. Not the way Derrick Henry would do it, but they can still run it. So that way, Ryan Tannehill is able to use that play action, which worked perfectly yesterday. Tennessee is 7-2 right now, and I believe they have the top seed in the AFC if the playoffs were to start this very day. Buffalo. Look, I like the Buffalo Bills. I really do. Josh Allen has become one of my favorite players. He and Stephon Diggs have become one of my favorite tandems to watch and break down. The offense can move the ball down the field. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was saying the defense has also improved. Yesterday, their defense showed up. Where was the offense? Give credit to Jacksonville because every time Josh Allen dropped back, they kept those safeties high. They forced him to throw everything underneath, dink it, dump it, don't take shots down the field, and that was a defensive struggle. Neither team scored a touchdown. That game was decided by field goals. Jacksonville upset the Buffalo Bills by a score of 9-6. Now, two funny things. One, this is Jacksonville's first win in the United States since week 1 of last year when they beat the Indianapolis Colts. And I know you guys have probably seen the whole thing. Buffalo has a player named Josh Allen. So do the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he actually sacked. Josh Allen of Jacksonville actually sacked Josh Allen of Buffalo when he actually intercepted him as well. Here's the thing about Buffalo. They have to get back to trying to run the football. I think this team is way too dependent on Josh Allen. He shouldn't be throwing the ball a certain amount of times. That offensive line has to be better. The defense has improved, but this was solely on the offense, and Josh did have a select few choice words that I'm not going to repeat because this is a professional, clean show. And I did agree with what he said. He did not look all that great yesterday. Buffalo's 5-3. How about the Dallas Cowboys? Now, a lot of people have been making the claim for them to be the best team in the NFC. Dak came back yesterday after sitting last Sunday night against Minnesota with the calf injury, and Dallas just did not look good. Give kudos and credit to the Denver Broncos because they made the Cowboys a one-dimensional football team, and they outran them. They outran Dallas as well. You take away Dallas's running game and you put the game in the hands of Dak, he presses, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. Dallas's defense didn't have it, and I'm just going to say this. Trayvon Diggs has been great, but after him, they don't really have another guy that can cover. And Micah Parsons, he's been great. I think he's the favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year, but after him, they really don't have anybody else in the linebacking core to make plays. Yeah, Dallas did not look good. This is their first time losing since week 1. They're 6-2, but I still like them to win that division just because, look, Philly isn't good. Washington is terrible, and the Giants. So it was a little slip up. I think they kind of needed this. They have another game coming up. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons in week 10. A little personal for Dan Quinn. He was the head coach in Atlanta for 6 seasons. He was relieved of his duties last year, and now he's calling the defense for the Dallas Cowboys. They're improved. He has had an impact, but I still need to see more improvements from the Cowboys defensively. How about the Patriots? Now, the Patriots have quietly just been going about business, and I think that's what that's how Bill Belichick would want it. And Belichick and the Patriots are kind of turning back time a little bit. They're turning back the clocks because they're having Mac Jones, they're having him kind of control things. Similarly to how they did it with Tom Brady when he first came into the league in 2000, when he first became a starter in 2001. Dink and dump, hand the ball off, let that defense handle you. It almost feels like I'm watching the 01 Patriots every time I watch this year's Patriots. That defense is really coming to play. J.C. Jackson, how about him? This is why they got rid of Stephon Gilmore. J.C. Jackson made Stephon expendable. He does everything that Stephon can do. Gets takeaways, shuts down a side of the field. So they decided to keep the younger option in J.C. Matthew Judon is paying dividends for this New England defense. Yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from this New England defense, and they're going to be there in the AFC. They're going to make things interesting, and I think it calls for good football because who wouldn't want to see Bill Belichick back in the playoffs? They play Cleveland next weekend. Speaking of Cleveland, statement win yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I can admit I picked against them when I previewed this game on the website last week on Wednesday. I look at just how the Browns, how differently and how much better they look when Odell isn't on the field. They got to the playoffs last year without Odell. You think they see that same success with him last year. And not having Odell on the field, Baker Mayfield completes 68% of his passes. Using the play action, Nick Chubb got it going. They were able to take those shots down the field. Baker played with a lot of confidence. He only threw the ball 21 times, and that's what you need. If he throws it anything more than 25, there's a problem. The Browns. This was their most complete win of the year for the Browns. Offensively, they were able to push the ball up the field, and defensively, getting those interceptions, really putting pressure on Joe Burrow, intercepting him 2 times. One was a pick six from Denzel Ward, and Cleveland, they saved their season yesterday. What a difference being a game over 500 makes than being 4-5. As I just said a couple of minutes ago, Cleveland will play New England this upcoming weekend in Week 10 of the NFL. I will be previewing that game on the website. Come on, man, I'm full of shameless plugs. The AFC. So I want to touch base on the AFC. Who's the best team right now? I could really make a case for Tennessee because they've made statements the last couple of weeks with winning against Buffalo and winning against against the Kansas City Chiefs. The 2 teams that represented that went to the AFC Championship last year, beating Indy on the road and then going to LA and beating the Rams, and not just beating the Rams, but punking them and kind of beating them at their own game, bullying them. They're 7-2. Could make a case for Baltimore because as the weather gets colder and the months go on, what do teams like to do when the weather gets colder? They like to run the football. Baltimore, arguably one of the best teams when it comes to running the ball, but I have concerns about their secondary because if you saw a lot of that game yesterday against the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, he kept taking the top off the zones. Kirk Cousins was just throwing the ball left and right. A lot of teams have been doing that on the Ravens this year because they don't have Marcus Peters. Marlon Humphrey hasn't really looked like the same guy. And I can guarantee and sit here and tell you guys that if Marcus Peters is playing in that game, say against against Cincinnati, or even yesterday against Minnesota, those guys aren't going off like that. He's their best cover corner, and he can take away the other team's true number 1 weapon. Baltimore 6-2. They're back in the driver's seat right now in the AFC, but Cincinnati still owns that tiebreaker over the Baltimore Ravens due to the fact Cincinnati beat them a couple of weeks ago. The Chargers got back on track yesterday, needed a field goal toward the end of the game to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly gave them all they could handle, but look, anybody can be beat, and Philly just ran out of gas. How about the Raiders? Now, first, my heart goes out to the family of the young woman who was killed in the incident with Henry Ruggs III. The Raiders did get rid of him last week. You talk about just a dark cloud hovering over this team, because if you look back at the Raiders, they started hot. Wins over Baltimore in week 1, then flying across the country, beating Pittsburgh in week 2, then beating Miami. You win your first 3 games, then you lose a game. Then everything comes out with John Gruden and what he did. Then he ends up resigning. Rich Bisaccia comes in. They take after him. They win 2 more games. And now this incident with Henry Ruggs happens. And look, his negligence, unfortunately, cost a life. And, it's just so sad to see. And I also heard the young lady's dog was also killed in the car crash. I'm a pet parent, so that kind of hits home for me. And unfortunately, having to put a dog down and lose a dog, it definitely hits home. But my thoughts are with everybody involved with this. But to drive 156 miles after having 18 shots, that's just unacceptable. You have more than enough funds to call Uber, Lyft, a taxi. Come on, bro. Do better. I hope they don't make an example of him, but I have a feeling that they're going to. And the Raiders did have a football game yesterday against the New York Giants, and They just the Giants couldn't get it done. I mean, the Raiders couldn't get it done yesterday. The Giants beat them by a score of 23-16. The Giants defense came ready to play. The Giants did enough offensively. Daniel Jones only threw the ball 21 times, but he didn't turn the ball over, and I thought that was crucial for them. Derek Carr threw an interception. Yeah, who wants to win the AFC West? Because that division seems like it's up in the air. The Raiders have a big game with the Chiefs, which leads me to my next thoughts. Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs. This was supposed to be the game where we were supposed to see Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes play, but Rodgers tests positive for COVID. Supposedly he lied about being immunized, and he's saying he's allergic to 2 of the ingredients that are in the vaccines for COVID-19. I don't know what's going on, but yesterday Jordan Love made his first start. He didn't look bad, but he didn't look good either, and furthermore, Kansas City just kind of proved my point as to why I'm concerned with them a little bit more, because you couldn't put away a team that didn't have their MVP winning quarterback. That's unacceptable. You let Green Bay hang around. Green Bay's defense played well. They kept that Kansas City offense in check, like most teams have done this year. Kept them to only 13 points, which is pretty low. Kansas City's only scored 33 points in their last 2 games, 20 against the Giants last Monday night and 13 yesterday. Kansas City has won consecutive games for the first time all season long. They've been a roller coaster. 1 week they're up, next week they're down. 1 week they're up, next week they're down. So I really don't know what we're going to see from the Chiefs. Next week is a big game for both Kansas City and Las Vegas, and let's talk about who I'm giving the game ball to. I'm giving it to Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. He carried the ball 14 times for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. And one more thing I wanted to touch base on as far as the NFC. The New Orleans Saints, they dropped the ball yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta, I thought we were repeating history again. Oh, here we go. Blowing another big lead and whatnot, and Matt Ryan, he's been playing out his mind the last couple of weeks, kind of showing some flashes of 2016 Matt Ryan when he won his first Most Valuable Player award that year. How about Cordero Patterson? He's become a jack-of-all-trades guy for this offense in Atlanta. You need him to play in the slot. He plays in the slot. You need him to return punts. He returned punts. You need him to take handoffs out the backfield. He takes handoffs out the backfield. What can't this guy do? The Saints dropped another game at home, barely lose at home. They have such a strong home field advantage, and they've lost their second game already at home at the hands of the Atlanta Falcons. I know they lost to the New York Giants earlier in the year. So the NFC is definitely interesting, and let's go back to the phone calls. Let's go back to the phone lines.
Hey, man.
Caller, you're on with the analyst. How can I help you?
Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing good. Who's this? Who am I speaking with?
My name's Eric with Chevy. Known you for many years, different things like that. I just got a couple of questions I wanted to pick your brain on, see if you could shed a little bit of some of your expertise and insight into a couple things.
Definitely.
All right, so I know one of the bigger topics that have been seen around on the headlines and different things is this whole Odell Beckham thing with Cleveland. What do you kind of think's going to happen? Do you think he's going to get cut, or do you know where he might end up if he does end up getting cut or let go?
It just hasn't really panned out with him out there in Cleveland. I think he's just been a bad fit. They were better without him last year. Like, they made the playoffs without him, and I know he was hurt last year. But where could I see him going? I could see him, possibly New Orleans. Just imagine him in that offense, because they did lose Michael Thomas. I've seen him linked to Green Bay for a while. I would trade him to Green Bay in a heartbeat. Him, Aaron Rodgers when he's back on the field, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb. Odell would probably be a solid number 2. And, he's a veteran. He still has his best football ahead of him. Technically, he's supposed to be in the prime of his career. So I'll say he
Randy Moss back in the day too. And it looks like, I could potentially see him try to do something crazy like that and see if he could get lightning in the bottle twice with that or something maybe.
Look, I'll never put anything past the evil genius. he knows how to really lure veteran players in, and I could see Odell really learning under Bill Belichick, because Randy was a little bit of a hothead during those playing days early in his career, and he really simmered down and really became a little bit more humble after playing in New England.
Yeah, absolutely. So he just has a way to get the best out of people. It's unbelievable, definitely.
Right. All right, what else you got for me?
All right. So which of the rookie quarterbacks do you think is going to look kind of like the most complete and put together by the end of the season? I mean, I know we've seen flashes from a few of them, but it's just like, I don't know, like it's just going to be interesting, of course, to see how it goes. But I just want to see what your thoughts are on the rookie quarterbacks and seeing which one's going to look kind of the most complete at the end of the year.
I'll say Mac Jones. I think he's been the best rookie quarterback out of anybody in this class. Justin Fields, he's still undergoing some growing pains. You see what I'm saying? Trevor Lawrence, they don't really have a lot around him in Jacksonville, and I sometimes think they're misusing Zach Wilson with the New York Jets, because look at how New England's using Mac Jones. They're using him exactly how they used Brady when he first came into the league. Lots of handoffs, not really taking shots down the field, kind of controlling things, not turning the ball over, and the defense is handling the rest. So for that question, my answer is Mac Jones.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, big. He's performed the best and everything like that. And I definitely agree with you. I wasn't expecting anything out of him, so I was, impressed with, how well he's done so far. So I totally get that. How do you think the Von Miller deal affects the Rams? Do you think that's going to be enough to kind of put them over the top of that top-heavy NFC? I mean, that division is, the last couple of years, always looked like it's been one of the best. And then, of course, throw in Green Bay, that looks pretty good, too, in that the NFC and everything.
Right.
Do you think Von Miller kind of gives them that little, that extra step to put them past, like Stafford this offseason kind of gave that offense a little extra pep, too?
I think it does, and they're in win now. They're in win now mode. They definitely want to assert themselves. They want to separate themselves from the pack in the NFC, because it's definitely been like a rotating carousel amongst the NFC. Tampa Bay is good. Well, any good team's going to be good with Tom Brady, right? Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. You look at Dallas, and how could you not be happy for one Dak Prescott? And you look at these Rams, like they definitely want to separate themselves from the pack. I think it does, because you have 3 top 10 defensive players on that team. You have Jalen Ramsey in the back end, who is your heart and soul. Aaron Donald, who is he's your best defensive player, and he's the best defensive player in the National Football League. And then you bring a veteran, a guy with some championship pedigree, and Von Miller, who can do it all. Line up as an end, but I think he does his best damage when he's up, just looking to rush that passer. So, yes, I think it can, and they could be the second team to play in their home stadium in the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is at SoFi in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, because it doesn't seem like they're going to need him to be, like, the number one guy in that defense. So it'll be fun to watch how he kind of integrates himself in with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, definitely, to kind of see how they can put that all together.
Right. Absolutely.
Another question, too.
Okay.
Now with Derrick Henry being out for the rest of the year, so that basically leaves that rushing crown wide open. Who do you think snatches that up with him being sidelined for so many weeks?
I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor at Indianapolis. I think he's second behind Derrick Henry for the most rushing yards up until Derrick got hurt. I loved him at Wisconsin. He reminds me of a faster version of Michael Turner, who used to play for the Atlanta Falcons. That burst. He can run up the middle. He can bounce outside the tackles. And you can even get him to catch the ball out the backfield here and there as well. So I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Still, looking at Derrick Henry's numbers. I was looking at him the other day. I have him in my fantasy league. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do me much good now for the rest of the season. But looking at his numbers, you would even take that in a full season. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Me being a former defensive player, you can now play the Titans a lot differently because usually when Derrick's on the field, what do you normally see? You usually see guys crowding the box. You're putting a safety or two in that box, sitting on a line of scrimmage. Now, those safeties can play back, and A.J. Brown's going to see a lot of single high looks with man coverage underneath across the board, and maybe a safety or two playing cover one to support that corner underneath across the board. And yeah, it's a tough injury because Derrick is by far the best running back in the National Football League, and most importantly, he's become a superstar in the league. He's a battering ram, or I just like to call him that grown man, because that's exactly what he is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking if he was going to have a 2,000-yard year, he probably should have been an MVP again, just because I feel like that award's always just gone to quarterbacks now, but he's well deserving of potential if he was able to continue.
It definitely has. It definitely has. I was almost sad when I heard he was going to be out, because I know how much he loves the game, and he's really bought that old school approach to the running back position, because he's an old school guy. He plays like an old school guy, 6'3", 250. That's the size of some defensive linemen and some defensive ends playing, if at any level in college, in the NFL, and even semi-pro, and he's running the ball out the backfield.
Yeah, it's crazy too. And I run 21, 22 miles an hour, just like that's insane.
Absolutely. You got anything else for me, Shabs?
Yeah, I got one last question for you. So, what do you think Jordan Love's going to do against this Chiefs defense?
Well, I mean, anybody can succeed against the Chiefs defense because they can't stop cyberbullying. But my thing is, he just needs to come out and he needs to be himself. He doesn't need to be he doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't need to be the second coming of Brett Favre. He just needs to be himself. And if you're a teammate of his, that's what you're saying to him as well. I think Green Bay, they're going to kind of have the same game plan like they did against Arizona last Thursday night. Lots of running the football, because what's the Chiefs' biggest weakness on defense? They can't stop the run. They can't really do much of anything defensively, but I could see a lot of Aaron Jones and a lot of A.J. Dillon having Jordan Love kind of micromanage the football game, just to kind of make things easy for him, because you don't want him throwing the ball 40 times. A running game is a young quarterback's best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's throwing it 40 times, I think they're going to be in a world of hurt. There's probably some bigger issues if he has to throw it that many times for him.
Absolutely. Now, okay, Shabs, there's a question that I always ask every caller, listener, and viewer. What's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
I just enjoy the way that you kind of articulate kind of your thoughts and perspectives on a lot of different things. It's very relevant. I feel like it comes from a very intelligent person who speaks eloquently in the situations, understands the game, but is able to kind of share it to people who may not understand the game, the X's and O's portion of it. And I like how you're able to kind of draw in everybody and kind of be all-inclusive in that situation, so everyone could, pick up your, read your Daily Blitz articles and kind of get an understanding of it, and it's not just like, wow, that's a whole lot of just football talk that I have no clue of what's going on. So,
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you calling in to talk to me. Hope you continue to listen. We're going to have to do this again. Take care.
You as well. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir. I'm back on the phone lines, back to the callers. Caller, you're on with the analyst on Monday Evening Quarterback. How can I help you today?
Mr. Analyst, thank you for taking my call.
Wait, okay, so before I even get into anything, this sounds like a very familiar voice. Is this who I think it is?
Yes, sir, your former advisor, your former assistant. It's an honor to speak with you on Monday Evening Quarterback.
Okay, so let me tell you guys something about Josh here. Josh was literally there when I started this from the ground up in 2010. I think he was even with me when I started this from the ground up. So, it's always great to have such a close friend / family member on the show. What's going on, Josh? Talk to me.
Okay, I just wanted to jump into these college football playoffs.
Okay.
Rankings, the first, the inaugural ones that just came out.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking at them. We got Oklahoma. That's my squad, the Sooners.
Right.
Sooner.
Right.
Ranked number 8.
Okay.
I'm looking at the teams above them with one loss. Alabama.
Right.
Oregon. Ohio State.
Right.
Okay, so you play the games that are on your schedule. You win those games.
Right.
I don't care about how much you won by, how much you lost by. They didn't have any losses, so that doesn't even come into. You're not weighing losses against each other.
Right.
So I'm looking at Oregon, for instance. They lost to Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
That Stanford team is under 500.
Right.
I don't get the committee's justification for ranking Oregon over Oklahoma.
Hey,
Ohio State lost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, you go.
Well, you know what? I actually agree with you because when I was looking at the first set of rankings, I'm sure you probably saw me tweet what I thought it was going to be, and I actually had Oklahoma on the 2 line because that win streak that stands out to me. They've won 18, 19 in a row dating back to last year. So my 4 originally it was Georgia at 1. I mean, come on. Georgia's been the most dominant team. No, you can't. Look, they've been some dogs, pun intended. 2, I had Oklahoma. I had your Sooners at 2. 3, I had Cincinnati because to me, Cincinnati has the best win out of any team in the country this year. Going into South Bend to play a number 9th ranked Notre Dame. And then 4, I put Alabama on there because, the committee loves them some Bama. You see what I'm saying? So, though that was my 4. I was very surprised to see Michigan State on there. Now, don't get me wrong. The win against the Wolverines last week, that was a good one. But outside of that win, who exactly stands out to you on that, on their resume? You see what I mean? And then Oregon, the only win that really stands out is the one against Ohio State and Columbus in week 2.
Yes, but you have to factor in the fact that they lost too. If Oregon had beat Ohio State and was undefeated, okay, they can be over Oklahoma in my mind. But just the fact that they lost to an unranked team, that doesn't sit well with me. Bama, they lost to Texas A&M. That's a very hostile environment with the 12th man and everything. Texas A&M, they ranked them, I think, at 15. So I get that. Michigan's above them too. But they lost to an undefeated team, which they ranked number 3. So that one makes sense too. And then Ohio State, they got the win. The only loss is to Oregon. So the Oregon ranking is the one that really, really got me. And, I saw your projections, and I don't want to be a homer or anything. Oh yeah, they should be number 1. They're the only 9-0 team.
Right.
Because they haven't had their bye yet.
Right.
At the time when we're recording this, but. I don't know. These college football, that committee, they always like to stir the pot. Oklahoma does have Baylor and Oklahoma State, 2 of their top 15 teams that they get to boost their resume, but it's just tough to think that an undefeated team in a Power 5 conference doesn't control their own destiny.
Exactly. I get it.
Any scenario where they would win out and not be in?
That's possible. We've seen that happen in previous years with schools. This is why I'll continue to say it every year that they need to expand the college football playoff to 8 teams. You have your 4 conference champions, and then you have 4 at-large bids, kind of like a wild card in football or baseball, or why not even have a play-in game, kind of like how the NBA does, for the playoffs for like a couple of spots. I think that would add a little bit more intrigue. You see what I'm saying?
Definitely, I agree.
So what else is on your mind football-wise?
Football-wise, man, those college football rankings that kind of jumped out at me. This week I was really looking forward to your preview. The Chiefs and the Packers. That was going to be a really big game, and the Aaron Rodgers news kind of dumped a bucket of cold water on that.
It definitely did. But I see Green Bay coming into that game with the same type of format that they had last week against Arizona. They're going to run the football, so I expect to see lots of A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones in a short, quick passing game, and all Jordan Love has to do all I'm saying, if I'm one of his teammates right now, I'm saying, look, just be yourself. You don't have to be the next Aaron Rodgers or the second coming of Brett Favre. I don't know who would want to do that, just be the best version of Jordan Love you can be. I was looking forward to it too, man. So trust me, I sympathize with you and everybody else who was looking forward to the State Farm Bowl.
Yeah, no doubt. And then along those lines, too, another big game. I just got to give you a shout out. Everybody loves what you do with the hip hop, the titles, and incorporated and all that.
Thank you.
You gave a shout out to my guy J. Cole. That's my guy too. I read the Titans and the Rams lost ones with we all remember what happened on that Super Bowl. Coming down on that 1 yard line right there. That was an excellent tie, and you never cease to amaze me with these titles. So keep doing your thing with that.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Now, before I end every call, Josh, I ask every viewer, every listener, and every supporter, what's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
I just like how dedicated you are to what you do. When you set your mind to it, you're locked in, and you give it 110% every time. One thing that I personally like One Touch is how when these games that you preview, particularly the college ones, and then some of these primetime matchups, you will do the live play-by-play, like the live tweet game. I really like that feature. Just hopping on there on Twitter and y'all see a tweet and what's going on with this game, and you're really breaking it down so I can feel like I'm following along. I might be out and about handling my business, but seeing your tweets, I feel like it keeps me updated. So keep doing that, man. People are definitely watching. People are definitely reading those tweets, and that's a really good feature Daily Blitz does.
Man, I really appreciate you coming on and supporting. You've been a supporter since day one. Continue to... Word of mouth, to me, is the best advertisement. And now that we live in a social media world, you can put anything out there, basically. So, man, thank you for everything you've done and everything I know you're going to continue to do. And I definitely have to have you back on. The doors of Monday Evening Quarterback are always open to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely.
Keep doing what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Again, if you enjoyed all those phone conversations and you want to be on the show, let me know. We can talk and we can set something up. Normally, this is the time where I take questions and nobody really sent me anything. So with that being said, I'm going to end the show. Just want to always give shout outs to my family, my amazing mother. Love you very much. Thank you for all you do. None of this is possible without her. My beautiful sister Taylor, so proud of you and all you're doing. Keep doing what you do, and you always have a fan. And your big brother, my son, better known as my dog, Siebes. Normally he's at my feet when I'm recording Monday Evening Quarterback, but he's not here right now. He's probably being a dog, probably in something he knows he's not supposed to be doing. My dad, love you, old man. Thank you for all you do for me, and I'm proud of you as well. And before I end the show, many of you know me very personally off the microphone. A year ago, February 22nd to be exact, I lost my grandfather. 84 years old, lived an amazing life, and today would have been his 86th birthday. Happy heavenly birthday to Mr. Robert Mitchell. I miss you more than life itself could possibly imagine. You showed me how to be a man at an early age, and everything that I was able to do for you in those 10 years, I would do it all again in a heartbeat, because that would mean more time with you. So I hope you're living it up in the sky. Continue to be my guardian angel, and I'm going to continue to represent you and make you as proud as I can. This is always going to be a special day to me, and I just want to thank everybody who's checked in on me and my family. From my family to you, we truly appreciate it. And I always end the show with some shout outs. Another birthday shout out, Robert Butler. Today is his birthday. Jason Tyree, Candace Carter, Kimmel Fryer. Shout out to my guys, Rob Carter, Mike Griffin, who just celebrated a birthday on Friday. My cousin, Sean Jameson. And all my callers, Skip, Joe Grisso, Omar Cornelio, Josh the King Johnson, and my guy Shabs, Eric Shevlin. all guys that I went to high school with. Thank you guys for being on. Keep up with me on social media. Log on to the website, thedailyblitz.blog. Enter your email address. Anything that I type, you will get to your email address. Follow us on Twitter at dailyblitz_61. Like the Facebook fan page, go to facebook.com, type in the Daily Blitz, and follow us on Instagram, which is at the Daily Blitz _61. As far as the radio, I'm about to go on the Prime. Catch me on the Prime every Monday and Tuesday with David Hoffman, TJ Hopkins, Israel Rivera, Matt James. You can catch me on the Nerd Zone every Wednesday with John Danzo, Ronnie Kumpf, Christopher Lawrence, Ryan Shaw. Catch me on College Football Showdown. Sorry, I had a little brain freeze right there. College Football Showdown every Friday with Israel Rivera and Matt James. And then you can catch me on WCPT 820 AM on the Sports Cubicle with Devin Tingle, my man Sistine Chapel, better known as Michael Angelo Mercado. And then you can also catch me with Paul Shivari on that show as well. And if you want to listen, but you live outside the state of Illinois, I will more than gladly send you the link so you can tune in to support. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have fun making it. Thank you for always supporting. I will see you back here next week, God willing. I'm off to go do the Prime. Have a great week. And Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears, Pittsburgh Steelers. I like the Steelers in this game. They've gone back to playing old school football, playing the ball that they did when Ben first came into the league, running the ball, using the short, quick passing game over the middle, and the defense is taking care of the rest. I just don't trust the Bears' offense. I like the Steelers to win this game 24-13. Maybe a touchdown pass from Ben Roethlisberger, and I like Najee Harris to account for 2 touchdowns. 1 on the ground and 1 as a receiver. I will see you guys next week. Continue to keep up with me. Send me your questions. I gave you the links on how you can keep up with me on the website and on social media. I will see you next week. Be great this week.